Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, and once again with my guest, Dr. Sherif Amir, Professor of International Relations. Dr. Sherif, to start with, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi has always been stressing the importance of Egyptian-African relations and also stressing the importance of joint cooperation with African countries and supporting joint efforts to achieve the aspirations of the African continent. How do you read this?
Well, Egypt's role in Africa was historically something very prestigious to all African countries, as we helped many countries in Africa to gain independence. And then Egypt went through some turmoil during what was called the Arab Spring, and then we found out afterwards that there was some problems integrating Egypt into the African Union in 2013. And then when the 30th of June revolution took place in 2013, President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi, after the democratic elections and he assumed power, he started negotiating with every African leader, yes, so that Egypt regains its position as a leading country in Africa.
Yes.
But President Sisi adopted a new policy that was never adopted before. It was the policy of brotherhood, that every country in Africa is, has sharing a culture, sharing tradition with Egypt, and that this will keep Egypt on the leading position. That's why President Sisi always said about the African people, African nations, said, our brothers in Africa. And let's not forget that it was very quick that Egypt, from being outside the African Union, became the head of African Union.
Yes.
And then all the projects started at that time.
How do you view Egypt's efforts in achieving peace and security in Africa?
Well, Africa, as we know, unfortunately, was always let's say the fertile land for wars, tribal wars, civil wars, and all these, and revolutions, and all these political problems, which pushed the young people from Africa into the immigration.
Yes.
So we have seen, unfortunately, the boats who sank during the boats trying to transfer the illegal immigrants to Europe, and African nations were in despair. At that time, President Sisi started working with every country about how to stop the wars, how to bring security, and how to make the young people feel confident in Africa that they could contribute in the building of their own countries. That's why we have started in Egypt the conferences for the youth, African youth, and we started, President Sisi started talking to them and telling them, no one will build your country except you, the young people.
Sure.
So, that's what I wanted to say, that Egypt had this leading role in trying to make them understand that we could achieve stability.
Yes. Well, in light of 7 years of working hard on the African file, now how do you view President Sisi's efforts to restore Africa's role in Europe also, and activate its status and consolidate stability and development internally and internationally?
Well, we know that Europe at a certain time was hit by what was called illegal immigration, especially after the downfall of the regime of Gaddafi in Libya. And at the same time, there was the Syrian refugees coming from the civil war in Syria.
Yes.
So all the refugees were flooding into the old continent, and we know at that time that Erdogan played this card of blackmailing his neighbors in Europe about financing terrorism, financing all the illegal immigration into Europe. So I think that Egypt was the only partner who was worse with the Europeans to tell them you should help Africa to regain its stability so you would not suffer anymore from the illegal immigration. And President Sisi was present in every summit there was, for the first time, African-European summits in Palermo, in Vienna, and President Sisi was the leading figure there because he was negotiating the case of Africa. If Europe needs to have stability and be sure that their borders are safe, they have to ensure that what's taking place elsewhere, south of the Mediterranean, should be safe. And that was the problem in Libya. And President Sisi at that time started speaking with all his counterparts in Europe, especially in Italy, because the border was so close with them, about the case in Libya, that you have to help the national army of Libya to defend itself so that we can bring stability and the illegal immigration should be stopped.
Right. Now, Dr. Sherif, in your opinion, what gives Egypt extensive political influence in Africa?
Well, our historical role through history, Egypt is the leading country in all the independence movements in Africa. We helped countries like Algeria, like the Congo, Sudan. We helped every country to gain its independence. But also, let's not forget the geographic position of Egypt. We are the bridge between Africa and Asia through the Sinai Peninsula. And we have the Suez Canal, which is a tremendous route for the cooperation between all nations. And, of course, through history, Egypt was the hub of the cultures from Greece, from Italy during the first parts of the first years of the 20th century. All these communities were living in Egypt. So there's something special about Egypt, and also let's not forget that our civilization is a pride for all the Africans, the pharaohs. So there is something about this country, and also this country has the leaders like the independence time was Nasser, and then we have now President Sisi bringing hope to all the African nations again.
Yes. And now moving on to Somalia and focusing on Somalia, there was a very important visit by Somali Prime Minister to Egypt this week, a 3-day visit, talking about the Egyptian-Somali relations. And how do you view Egypt's strategy to engage further with the African states, and especially those in the east of the continent?
Well, the Horn of Africa is very strategic for Egypt, and unfortunately, when Egypt abandoned the file of Africa decades ago, we paid a very heavy price afterwards in negotiations with Addis Ababa about the Renaissance barrage, and then there was chaos and the civil war in Somalia. Somalia is very important for us because it has it's the victim of terrorism until now with Al-Shabaab, and we do not wish to see any terrorist groups on any African soil because we have seen what took place in Libya. Secondly, the second point is that there are countries who are trying to harm this country especially and to control it so that it will be a base to harm Egypt's influence in the Red Sea. And I mean by that Turkey. It has a military base there, and it has no explanation why Turkey has a military base inside of Somalia. It never helped the Somali people in any ways. So I think that now the Prime Minister of Somalia, he understands Egypt's weight. He understands now that Egypt could contribute in peace in this region. For instance, we have built many projects in Tanzania, in South Sudan, and we are helping the neighboring country of Somalia. We are helping Djibouti. President Sisi made a visit there.
Yes.
So I think that these African leaders, they understand now that there is a leader who can help them and not harm them by blackmailing them with any help. We offer the help, the project, as humanitarian and friendly relationship with these countries.
Well, Dr. Sherif, would Egypt face intense competition from regional rivals as it tries to gain a foothold in Somalia?
Of course, because Somalia, as I said, there is a terrorist group there, the Al-Shabaab there, and it's financed by, well, we know that Ankara, that Turkey is present there, and their military base was never hit by the terrorist group. So that explains many things.
Yes.
So I think that there are countries who wish to cut the road of the Red Sea for Egypt. As we know, for example, that at Bab el-Mandab numerous times the Iranians tried to block it so that the Suez Canal would be blocked. Same thing, we have the same obstacle in Somalia. They're trying to harm Egypt's position there. But let's not forget that our role now is to bring the peace and stability in these countries, not to compete with these countries in wars. For instance, what took place in Libya when the mercenaries were sent from Turkey, everyone saw that Egypt, when President Sisi drew the red line, that we will have a military intervention.
Yes.
And we explained to everyone the red line would be respected, but not with firing one bullet. We know how to do it, and we will do it again in Somalia. When we would like to ensure the security there and peace there, we will do it calmly, and the people there will understand that they have to follow Egypt, not someone else.
Yes, well, Dr. Sherif, in light of what you've just said regarding the Suez Canal, how would the stability in Somalia affect the security of the Suez Canal and the growing role in Africa? Why the Suez Canal, along with the new Suez Canal, are viewed as a present and future nerve center of the African economy?
Well, because we all know that Egypt started a new sector of the Suez Canal. At that time, many countries thought that this sector would not work, but fortunately for us, it worked, and we're trying to invest in it. So it will be a double route. It will facilitate the traffic. And we all know that there are numerous projects now, whether in Turkey or in Iran even, to have some alternative routes. But I think it won't work because the safest and the shortest is Egypt's Suez Canal route. We all know that the countries having a port sea in whether it's Somalia, Eritrea, Djibouti, and Sudan also, and South, they are trying. Our enemies are trying to have a presence there.
Yes.
So there will be some. Let's say this route won't be safe anymore.
Yes.
And we remember that at a certain time there was the Somali pirates phenomena, and all the ships were attacked. And I think that now we are explaining to everyone, Egypt is guaranteeing the security of this vital route. We will never, ever abandon this security. And we have a superb navy. We have our arsenal prepared to defend all the maritime routes, whether in the Mediterranean or in the Red Sea. And this is how regional powers defend their interests.
Yes. Right. Well, for Egypt, the Horn of Africa is a national security concern. Now, especially vis-a-vis the Red Sea and the fact that it's also close to the Nile Basin. These have always been two strategic areas of importance to Egypt. How do you see the importance of Egypt's keenness on drawing many of the Horn of Africa nations, like, for example, Somalia, Kenya, and Djibouti, to its orbit?
Well, when President Sisi visited Djibouti, many regional countries were stunned because Djibouti is a military base for several countries and regional powers, such as, or international powers, such as China, France, the United States, even Turkey is trying to have a footstep there. I think that President Sisi, when he made this visit, he made it clear that Egypt is part of the equation, and we would not leave this part of Africa for our rivals. We are trying also to make it clear to the Horn of Africa that you need cooperation with Egypt so you would rebuild again the security, because unfortunately this part was devastated by wars and terrorism. And well, let's not forget that Somalia is a bordering country to Ethiopia. So the message is clear also that we are present there to ensure our security in everywhere in Africa. We have our presence everywhere, whether in Djibouti, whether in Somalia. And Eritrea, we have relations with them also.
Yes, sure. Well, dear viewers, we'll go to a short break and we'll be back to resume the daily debate with our guest, Dr. Sherif Amir, Professor of International Relations. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. You're still watching the daily debate live on Nile TV International, and still with my guest, Dr. Sherif Amir, political analyst and professor of international relations. Now, Dr. Sherif, talking about the civil war in some of the African countries and the efforts exerted by Egypt towards some countries like Libya, Tunisia, and South Sudan in stabilizing and stability in these countries.
Well, we all know Egypt's role in calming the situation in Libya. We have seen how many countries contributed in the destruction of this country. And the aim was also that terrorist group will infiltrate the borders into Egypt and destabilize Egypt's security.
Yes.
And President Sisi understood from the first day that it's very critical, the situation there, and some countries are trying to push Egypt into a confrontation inside Libya,
yes,
or to face terrorism inside Egypt. And the equation was very difficult. So we were prepared with our sophisticated equipment, because the land there is very difficult to maintain the long border with Libya. We were prepared how to stop the vehicles carrying the terrorists into Egypt. We stopped them, and then we understood how they wanted to push Egypt into confrontation there. So at that time, we started talking with our partners in Europe that we have to rebuild the National Army of Libya.
Yes.
Was the head of Marshal Khalifa Haftar. And Khalifa Haftar at that time was not accepted inside Europe for many reasons. We started explaining to them that you have to deal with this man because Libya has to fight terrorism. And no one will fight terrorism. We would not go into the land of Libya because we respect the sovereignty of the country there.
Yes.
And fortunately, the army of Libya was created. We were present as guiding them how to combat terrorism as we have the experience. We never interfered in land. And our partners in Europe understood that to fight terrorism, to fight illegal immigration, they have to stop accepting the finance of these groups, whether from, at that time, Qatar and Turkey. Till Turkey bluntly, like in front of everyone, sent the mercenaries
Yes.
and started engaging the war again so that they will have a presence there. But Egypt has this policy of negotiating with everyone. We negotiated with all the factions. And now we have the Prime Minister there, Mr. Debeba. We are trying to make him also negotiate with Khalifa Haftar. So there will be a harmony between the government and the army at that, in this country. It's very complicated, but I think we have managed to ensure more than 90% of the mission, because our partners in Europe understand now that the situation in Libya should be calm. The Libyan people, they appreciate a lot the role of President Sisi and how we ensured the security again in this country. Well, it's not 100% secure, but still they're now better than before. And then when we drew the red line and we said that we would not accept it, it was respected, and it showed that how Egypt had a trilateral force. I mean by that, our military, our diplomacy, and our intelligence service. Moving to countries like Tunisia, as you said. Tunisia, we all know it was the starting point of what was called the Arab Spring in 2011.
Yes.
Well, I think that Tunisia was heading towards a disaster. Even with the COVID-19, it was spreading. The army was unable to control the situation, and President Qais bin Said he wants to serve his country, but he didn't know how to do it, because at a certain time the partnership with the Muslim Brotherhood there was influencing many things. And I think when President Sisi spoke with his Tunisian counterpart about the situation in his country, that we would like to help, we give advice, we never enforce our vision, we just keep negotiating.
Yes.
And I think that at a certain moment he got the info that the powers inside the country were destroying the country. I mean by that, the Hizb al-Nahda, the Nahda party at that time, was destroying the country. And he took the bold actions to defend his country.
Yes.
And now he is ensuring this. And I think that I call always Tunisia as the laboratory of all these movements, because it's a small country and they just study how the people will react. And I think that we showed everyone that the say is for the people and for the national front, not for the terrorists and the extremist front.
Yes.
We have also countries like Sudan, as you said.
South Sudan.
And South Sudan.
Yeah.
South Sudan, we all know that since 2011, when they gained the independence, it was devastated by civil war.
Yes.
And the civil war never gave them the opportunity to work to build their country. President Sisi was the first foreign leader to make a visit there. As he made the visit to Rwanda and Burundi and to Djibouti. He had these bold steps to go there and to talk with the people there, and we're starting making Salva Kiir and his vice president to negotiate.
Yes.
And to put aside the tribal differences so the country could go forward. And they signed a peace agreement thanks to Egypt's interference, or Egypt's mediation. This kind of mediation saved a lot for this country.
Yes.
And then we started investing in there. We have built a huge medical center in Juba. And I think that the people now understand that war is not the solution. And they understand that Egypt is giving them the chance to create a new opportunity as an independent country. And then there was a revolution in Sudan against al-Bashir. And I think at that time, many rivals to Egypt started pushing some factions against Egypt because everyone saw that Egypt will support the army against everyone. And President Sisi at that time, he said, all the factions are welcome in Egypt to come and to negotiate and talk, as we did with the Libyans also. When they came to Egypt, they started having true discussions, and now we have a government there which is created by all the political factions. No one is being forgotten. And that means that Egypt also made a mediation without siding with anyone. We gave them the opportunity to choose and to talk, and we give them the advice, because fortunately, when we went through all these turmoils the last years before President Sisi became elected, we went through the experience of political turmoil, and now we're giving the experience, as we're giving the experience in fighting terrorism.
Yes. Well, moving on to the Renaissance Dam. Now, the United States, the African Union, the UN Security Council have been involved in attempts to convince Ethiopia to sign a legally binding agreement to deal with the filling and operation of the dam. Now, how do you view the fact that Egypt is now trying also to get Ethiopia's prime allies like China, or including China, to put pressure on Addis Ababa to sign this deal?
Well, first of all, our policy is that we have no problem with the people of Ethiopia. We do not, and we were never and we ever will be against their economic development. And
Yes.
President Sisi said it numerous times. He went even there and he said it to the people there. We are not against the economic development of Ethiopia. And we are not against the construction of this dam. All what we are saying is that they have to abide to the international agreements,
Yes.
and to negotiate with Egypt so that we would not be harmed. So I think that our partners in the international community, especially Russia and China, they understand now that Egypt wants to help Ethiopia, but we would like to also to make them understand and make the government there understand
Yes.
that there are regional accords that should be respected and not put aside. And I think that we gave the message very clear
Yes.
to Addis Ababa, that we have contacted, first of all, the country itself, then the neighboring country, then the African Union, then the partners, then the international community, then the UN. We are not wasting any effort. We are trying to work in all diplomatic ways to make them understand that they have to abide into this agreement. They have to sign the treaty with Egypt and Sudan. They have to understand that we would not accept that our share of water would be harmed. And I trust President Sisi when he said it will never happen that our share of water will be harmed.
Yes. Right. On another level, now President Sisi tasked the government to complete the construction of the Julius Nyerere Dam and hydropower station in Tanzania to the highest quality, of course. Now, what does Egypt gain from building a dam in Tanzania?
Well, first of all, we are giving the message to all these countries that we are a leading country. And that we are prepared to work with the African nations for development. And answering your question, of course, it will help us because, first of all, it's an investment for the Egyptian companies, the entrepreneurs there to work. And Egyptian engineers will go and work there. And also, let's not forget that when you help these countries, you have also some benefits from the agriculture. For example, if we need some agricultural products from them, we will get it in a good price. So the exchange is very important. And we are working according to the spirit of brotherhood in this continent. And Egypt is also telling them, it's telling all the countries in Africa, you're always dependent on Europe and the Europeans to come and help you. Why not working with your brothers inside of Africa? This will help you a lot. This will give you more and more confidence in your power to work and build Africa. And as we know that now the old continent, I mean Europe, the borders are closed and immigration is not accepted anymore as it was before. So there is no other way except working on the soil of Africa and building these countries.
Yes. Now moving on to another related topic, Sierra Leone. Foreign Minister Sameh Shoukry received in Cairo Tuesday his Sierra Leonean counterpart, David Francis. Now, how important is this visit, and how would the cooperation with other countries like Sierra Leone and the Sahel and Sahara region in particular benefit Egypt and the whole continent in general?
Well, we all know that Sierra Leone went through a devastating, long civil war, and this country could have been one of the richest countries because it has the diamond, it has the oil, and the warlords there were present and working for other factions and other powers. I think once again, as I was saying, Egypt is now a country giving them confidence that if you need to rebuild the country, if you need projects, if you need even political mediation, you can count on Cairo. And President Sisi, when he was at the head of the African Union, never forgot these countries. We didn't focus on Libya, Sudan, Nigeria, the big countries of the heavyweight countries of Africa. No, we were also very worried that countries like Sierra Leone or Guinea, Equatorial Guinea, would be affected by disease, by civil war, by political turmoil, because we all know that from experience, the country that we will abandon in Africa, immediately it will be a hub for terrorist groups, and then terrorist groups spread everywhere, as it happened in Boko Haram, in Shabab, in Somalia, and in Libya. So we do not wish to see that happening again. Whether Sierra Leone is far from Egypt, but we do not wish to see this happening again. Al-Qaeda in Mali. So we have to work now to ensure all the borders of all these countries, these are bordering countries for us. And let's see now, Egypt has influence from north of Africa to east of Africa, to the west of Africa, to the south of Africa. We are present everywhere. Never we were present like that before.
Right. Still in light with what you've just mentioned concerning combating terrorism, President Sisi has been always calling for the importance of fighting terrorism, as it is the main challenges that is hindering development in the African continent. Now, would you please brief us on Egypt's efforts in eliminating continental terrorism?
Well, we all know that Egypt has the experience. We have offered a lot from our martyrs, from the police, from the army, and the people also. And I think that the problem that took place in Libya was huge. We were facing real terrorist groups from all kinds of nationalities there. And they had huge financing.
Yes.
And we had to fight and repel these groups. So I think that once we were at the head of the African Union, we had, as I said, Al-Shabaab in Somalia, Boko Haram, Al-Qaeda in Mali. So I think at that time we started giving them the experience and the expertise that we had, because one of the main problems in Africa at that time, it was the intelligence info, because this war is not only about fighting with arms, it's fighting also the intelligence. Mm-hmm. And the second part also, as President Sisi always said, the religious mindset. So we started sending clergy from the Al-Azhar, giving these countries the possibility to see not the extremist view, but the moderate view of religion, and to understand that being religious doesn't mean you have to carry arms. Mm-hmm. So I think that Egypt had a huge task of the security and intelligence apparatus, and also the intelligence and the religious mindset that we had to form again for the African youth.
Mm-hmm. Right. Another very important country to talk about is the Democratic Republic of the Congo, and mutual relations, bilateral relations between Egypt and Congo. In your opinion, how would strengthening relations between the two countries would help in achieving security and stability in Africa?
Well, Congo was always the focus of many European countries, because it's a rich country in agriculture, and it has a huge landscape there. I think that when Egypt is present there, we have, first of all, historical role in the 1960s of the last century, when we helped this country to gain independence from Belgium. So I think that we are giving also them a new message that Egypt is coming back to help to emphasize the cooperation, because Africa, as I said, everything is open, and whenever something is harmful happening in the country, it could harm Egypt also.
Right. And finally, Dr. Sherif, how do you view the future of Egyptian-African relations?
Well, it has many obstacles, but it's with Egypt's tenacity, working with our brothers there, and with the same spirit, it will be very bright future. President Sisi is a leading figure in whole Africa, and I think Africa is being blessed that this man is now working with them with no other background, but nothing but brotherhood and cooperation.
Right. Well, I would like to thank you very much, Dr. Sherif Amir, our political analyst and professor of international relations. Always a pleasure having you with us.
Thank you.
Dear viewers, that brings us to the end of this edition of the Daily Debate. Many thanks for watching. This is Naveen Ramzi signing off.